Dan Illman, Mike Beer, huge weekend of racing at Woodbine. One of the big races on Saturday is the Grade 2 Connaught Cup. Let's throw up the field. We're going 7/8 of a mile on the turf. The purse, $175,000. This is your typical Woodbine Stakes fare, Mike. It's a gigantic field. It's a competitive field. You can make a case for 5 or 6.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there are several good horses in here, several of them that have been around for a while, Dan. You kind of already know what you're going to get from these horses. I guess it's wide open unless the 14 Cheryl Spite runs back to, one of his races from earlier this year, because if he runs either his Maker's Mark or maybe even his Tampa Bay, he's probably going to win.
He's running at 7/8 here as big races have come and going slightly longer, but he just seems like a versatile type that can do just about anything. The 9 Silent Poet heads our Timeform US pace projector. We take a peek there, and Silent Poet is a horse that won this race in 2020, albeit over very soft ground. He's run 3 times this year, 2 over synthetic tracks that I don't really think he cares for. They just haven't used his speed as they have in the past, and I think this time they got to try to get forward.
It'll be interesting to see what they do. You're right, Dan. He just, for whatever reason, just doesn't seem to have the speed that he used to have. Certainly, that's been the case in his first few starts this year. It feels like he could have been more forward last time, Dan. They just didn't want him to be.
March to the Arch, the number one's one of those salty old timers that we've been talking about seemingly forever. He won his first stake in 2018. He's closing in on $1 million in lifetime earnings. A little bit of a layoff here for March to the Arch, who's 7 years old now, almost 6 months away since being overmatched by Colonel Liam in the Pegasus World Cup turf. He's a horse that has been plagued by tough trips in his career, and he's going to have to work something out, turning back to 7.
Yeah, true enough. I mean, he's a really good horse, often compromised by trip and pace in his races. For that reason alone, Dan, he's just the kind of horse who I always like to use somewhere when he's going to be a price, and I try to avoid him when he's going to take a lot of money. Feels like he's not going to take that much money in here. I'm going to try to use him.
The number 2, Turn of Events, goes out for trainer George Weaver, and Weaver's done a phenomenal job with this horse. He claimed him for $35,000 in June of 2021. He's run him 5 times, 3 wins, 1 second, 1 third, including this score last time out at Monmouth. First start off a lengthy layoff and a second level allowance. Eric Cancel gave him a great ride. The horse didn't break great. He was able to save some ground, gets the split, and gets up late.
Yeah, he runs well in here against a weaker field. He has been in really good form since Weaver claimed him. He was actually, I felt like, starting to get good for his prior trainer as well. Listen, I feel like the 7 furlongs is a great distance for him. This is what this horse really wants, and he's got tactical speed. I'm just not sure that he's up to this level of competition.
Chewing Gum, the number 3, is a true late-running sprinter. We saw that in the 2021 Jaipur when he took advantage of a fast pace along with his stablemate Casa Creed and finished second to that one. Bill Mott's finally found a nice 7/8 turf race for him. He scored going 6.5 in the Joe Hernandez last time out. This is on New Year's Day, however. So 7 months away for Chewing Gum, but he found a field he could handle. He got to the outside. He's very game in the stretch.
Yeah, he gets the job done here. He's just going to sort of grind this thing out at the end. Not the most impressive win in the world, but it's a grade 2. It's, going down the hill there. It's at not even downhill. This is a 6.5 furlong turf race. I think the distance is good for him. There should be some pace for him to run at in here. I don't know, Dan. I guess he can win. I'm not a big fan of this horse.
Some angles for the 4 Artie Storm as he makes his 3rd start of the year and cuts back to a 7 furlong distance. He has won sprinting over the synthetic in the past. I do wonder if maybe he's better over synthetic on turf, but he ran okay last time out in Grade 3 Dominion Day. We're going to watch that race right now. This is a 1.125 mile race on the synth, and it looks like he's got a little bit of run down on the inside, Mike, and he's going to finish second. A buyer of only an 82, but I know he's a better horse than that.
Yeah, he ran okay. There wasn't really a lot of pace. He just didn't really have any chance to catch this horse who blew out to a clear lead in the stretch. I thought he did well just to get up for second in here when all was said and done. Don't mind him cutting back at all, Dan. I think he's okay on the turf. He is the kind of horse, like, he probably wants to sit and make one run. So we'll see if he can get the right kind of trip in here. But he's not, to me, he was far from impossible at a good price.
We talk about the 5 Tapit to win often in these races. It seems like when you give him a good trip, he runs well. And if you throw any kind of straw or adversity in his path, maybe he doesn't fire his best shot. Last time out on the Highlander, he was down inside, a little bit of traffic. But I think that race kind of proved to me, a guy that's been chasing Tapit to win for a long time, that maybe he's not of this caliber.
Yeah, maybe not of this caliber, and I just don't really see him as a turf horse either, Dan. They ran him in this race last year. He really didn't do that much. I didn't think he ran a particularly good race last time back on the grass. I don't know. I couldn't make him in this race.
The number 6, Vanbrugh, is going to be a big price. The winner 2 starts back in his first start for these connections. That race over a synthetic track, and they ran him a mile and an eighth last time out while dangling him for a $60,000 tag. He showed speed. He tired. I don't mind him cutting back in distance. I wonder if this is too tough.
Yeah, I think cutting back is probably good for this horse. I guess it's maybe at least worth noting as well that if you go all the way back to 2019, he did win off the layoff. So I guess you could say he could fire fresh in here too. I like the distance for him. I just didn't know that he was that good.
The 7, Filo de Arianna, has some ability. It's just a shame he rarely gets to the track. He's 6 years old and he's only started 7 times. He was a Group 2 winner in his native Brazil on turf, but he really exploded last time out on a synthetic track. This race is on July 3rd. He went right to the front going 7/8 of a mile, and he just hammers this field. There's some good horses in here. A 102 Beyer speed figure for Filo de Arianna, and Cassie has tested this horse twice now, sprinting on turf in North America. It hasn't worked out either time. Maybe going 7 where he can get close to the pace is a good sign.
Maybe it does feel like this is his preferred distance anyway. We'll see what happens now when they hike him back up in class. I mean, I suppose he had some kind of an excuse too back in the Jaipur, Dan, but he was not good in the Shaker Town before that. I don't know, 4-1. That seems like a pretty tough sell to me.
Wedgewood's the number 8. He's a horse that's going to be jumping up into the graded stakes ranks for the first time in his 27 race career on Saturday. It'll be his second start off of a lengthy layoff. His last race probably you consider to be a little bit of a prep. I'm just not sure he's this good, but when you gave him pace 2 back going 5/8, he popped a big number.
That was a good performance. I don't think he's this good either. I mean, I guess, there has to be some kind of a chance there that a lot of the, sort of better known horses in this race, I'm sure that some of them are a little bit over the top at this point and not as good as they used to be. So maybe that's a positive for this horse. I still don't see him beating all of these horses.
Silent Poet, the 9, again, won this race in 2020. Wouldn't mind a little bit of give in the ground and might be racing himself back into shape as he goes 4th start of the year. Again, I'd like to see them use his speed. I know he's won from just off the pace, most notably the Highlander last summer, but I think he really can be effective if he can get out there and be first or second turning into the stretch because he's got a lot of heart.
I agree with you. They just got to come out of there running and try to put him on the lead this time. They haven't tried that in any of his 3 starts so far. And listen, maybe they were just sort of, racing him into shape, and now they feel like they have him fit and they'll try to use his speed in here. I think it's the only way he can win.
White Flag, the number 10, it was really nice to see him fire last time out because at the age of 8, you had to start wondering if he was getting a little bit long in the tooth. He's run some quality races in the past, has the back class. Let's watch the Highlander last time out. There was a good pace on in this race, and you see turning into the stretch, he's last and he's in behind horses, and he's going to need a little bit of a luck with a quarter of a mile to go. He's going to run on for 3rd.
Yeah, he just never comes clear in this race. I think it's hard to say that he was going to win here. But it takes him way too long to find somewhere to go, Dan. That's the winner right in front of him there. The winner comes clear first. This horse comes clear second inside the final 16th, and he runs on over towards the rail. But at the end of the day, he ran really well in here with no chance to win.
That race was at 6 furlongs. He has done really good work at 7, and maybe the additional furlong will help him out. It looks like he's rounding himself back into form for a great horseman in Roger Attfield. Surly Furious is up next. All this horse has done is win 3 in a row. Now, those races came over the synthetic at Presque Isle Downs. He's used a variety of running styles at a variety of distances. He's in very good form right now. Tough spot to make a surface switch for the first time, however. First time turf.
Yeah, I agree with that, but I also agree with everything else you said. This horse is in really good form right now, and so they're going to step him up, I guess, at the right time. The surface switch has to be some kind of a concern, as does, the big rise in class here. So a lot working against this horse, but you're going to get a price if you believe.
Olympic Runner is a kind of horse that is very dangerous in any race really between 3/4 of a mile and a mile. He's a horse like his uncoupled stablemate March to the Arch that occasionally has some trouble, but he can fire from off the pace. And last time out, the Highlander, the race we saw with White Flag, he finished 8th that day. It was his first start of a long layoff, and I just have a feeling Mark Casse was getting him going.
Yeah, he was off the layoff there in a race that just didn't set up at all for his running style. I don't care about that race so much. I didn't love the way he necessarily finished his campaign last year as a 5-year-old, but prior to that, I did like some of his races. And in particular, I liked his effort in this race last year where he came up short, but he might have been best in there with just a little bit too much to do in the stretch, and he couldn't quite make it up.
10-1 on the morning line for the defending champion in this race. That's the 13 Avie's Flatter, and he's just really a cool horse. He placed in all 3 legs of the Canadian Triple Crown in 2019. Of course, he won this race last year as well as the Nearctic. He runs on yielding, he runs on firm, he runs on synth. Last time out, I have a feeling they were just giving him a race. Filo Arianna just kind of speed blitzed that field. Avie's Flatter wasn't good. He was also outside. He'll do better with that race under his belt.
Yeah, he will do better. I have no problem with anybody who likes this horse because generally speaking, he just shows up and he runs well every time. Again, we're talking about the Connaught Cup from last year that he won. I preferred Olympic Runner out of that race. I feel like this horse just had the better trip and barely held on. And of course, Olympic Runner came back to beat him when they squared off again about a month later. I still think this horse could win this race, Dan, and he's going to be a fair price.
The 14 Shirl Spite, as Mike mentioned in the open, is the horse to beat, a Grade 1 winner this year in the States. He won the Maker's Mark Mile by a hair, coming from way off of the pace. And then the Turf Classic going 1 1/8 over a Churchill Downs turf course that's had its share of problems. He didn't run badly at all. 1 1/8 might be a little bit far for him. Remember, he did win his career debut going 7/8 at Woodbine by the length of the stretch, and his last race is a throwout. They try to run him on dirt, and he actually ran pretty well last time.
Yeah, he did. I thought that was a weird spot for them to try. I'm not sure what the idea was there, but he didn't run terrible. This is his preferred surface. This is a good distance for him, I think. I think shorter is better for this horse. His turf races earlier this year were really, really good. I just think he's way the horse to beat here.
Before we get to our top selections, please click the subscribe button on the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel for all the latest DRFTV video offerings. Top pick time for the Connaught Cup. Shirl Spite, the horse to beat. Mike, going to have to work out a little bit of a trip from the outside, but he's versatile and tactical enough to get that kind of trip, and maybe you could just simply make the argument he's the best horse.
That's how I looked at it. We'll see. I suppose being drawn that wide could be a problem for him, but we'll see what happens. I actually stayed outside with all my picks. I put him on top. Olympic Runner was the other horse for me. I think he's going to be a price.
How deep is this field? 2 handicappers, 8 different selections. Filo Arianna looked very, very good last time. He did step on the turf earlier in his career and look good in his home country. I want him to get close to the pace. I want to see if maybe he's a new horse and maybe he's healthy. He's actually running back to back to back, I think, for the first time in his career. Fun race. It's the Connaught Cup at Woodbine on Saturday. Good luck.